Let's go to Lewis from Florida. Lewis from Florida, welcome to the program. What's on your mind today? What are you thinking about?
David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, how's it going? I was wondering if you heard about what was going on at the University of Florida with the protests.
No, what happened?
So they tried setting up the encampments, right, that they've been doing in New York City and all over the country.
Yep.
And the administration had warned them against it, saying that setting up the encampments was against the rules of the university.
Mm-hmm.
So when they tried setting up the encampment around 11:30 at night, they got the police there and told them that if they didn't leave, they would be trespassed from campus for 3 years and suspended.
Okay.
So after this happened, there was a lot of outcry, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And the university put out a statement from the spokesman. And that statement was, "This is not complicated. The University of Florida is not a daycare, and we do not treat protesters like children. They knew the rules, they broke the rules, and they'll face the consequences."
Right.
So I was just wondering what you thought of that, of the way they treated the protesters.
So I'm going just by what you are saying. So ultimately, did they arrest everybody?
Sorry, David?
Did they ultimately end up arresting everybody?
They arrested quite a few of them.
Oh,
I think it was maybe like around a dozen.
listen, here's my view in general. We have a right to free speech. And to the extent that the protests don't violate specific campus rules, the protesters should be allowed to protest. That's my view. I disagree with the vast majority of them, right? When you ask them their views on the specifics and you say, well, from which river to what sea should it be Palestine? Their answer, if they have one, I disagree with. Like, I think Israel gets to exist. I think it's a country. I don't think saying there should be, but they have the right to do it. Now, every single time that there are protests and then there is an overly authoritarian blowback and reaction from universities, city police departments, elected officials, it always backfires. It always comes off as going way, way, way overboard. I saw video of like people from the press, like a photographer being knocked down by police and all these crazy things. So that I am against. Now, I have to tell you, I'm not doing a both sides thing here, Lewis. Like, again, they have a right to be heard in terms of their voices. But I saw examples like where protesters at Columbia took over a building. They occupied a building, which already violates university rules. And then they were saying that if they aren't brought food and drinks, or if food and drinks are blocked, which I saw no evidence was going on, that it is considered blocking humanitarian aid, almost like, I mean, so that to me seems kind of wacky. They have an absolute right to be heard to the extent that their speech is completely legal and protected. And then sometimes they're going into like really wacky stuff where it's like, what do you think is going to happen? Now, as far as the University of Florida, I didn't know what was going on there. And so it's hard to comment more specifically than that.
Yeah, so I was really just curious what you thought about the daycare comment, because like you said, I also agree with you that obviously they have the right to speak, they have the right to hold signs.
Yep.
It's just that they were forewarned, about setting up an encampment.
Yeah, listen,
And then
most of the schools have rules that the protests cannot involve anything even semi-permanent. Now, we could say, oh, that's wrong. But those are the rules at most schools. Once you
right,
bring tents and stake them into the ground, it's a semi-permanent encampment. Now, maybe the demands of the students could include change the rules about what's allowed, or I don't know. But if the school says these are the rules and they tell them ahead of time, it's sort of like, it's not shocking that they're going to take actions to prevent the encampment from starting. I don't support stuff like, fire hoses against protesters. I don't support any of that stuff. But you also, it's like any logical person is going to realize they have these rules and they're warning us about them. This probably isn't going to be allowed.
right, yeah. And I have to say, I was definitely on board with the university's response. Um, like I said, they were completely warned of what would happen, and did so anyway. And as far as the daycare comment goes, I feel like that kind of rings true with like the Columbia example you brought up, where like it seems like they kind of just coddle the students and kind of give in to their demands of like, no police presence. And then we see what happens when universities give in to those demands. They take over the building. So
Yeah, listen, I
yes.
think it takes on a different environment when it's political speech rather than like, let me give you an example. I did undergrad at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, Massachusetts. And during the time that I was there were some close calls where the Boston Red Sox got close-ish to a World Series. And then there was also like, actually, they won the World Series in 2004. And a lot of the same, functionally speaking, things happened that are happening at some of these campuses now. Now, to be clear, it had nothing to do with Palestine or Israel. It was about sports, okay? But
Yeah.
when the behavior became semi-permanent type stuff, not necessarily tense, but kind of like setting stuff up, large crowds of people blocking access to certain buildings. I remember there was somebody who got up onto a roof of a dining hall and jumped down and broke both his ankles. I guess he was drunk and just did something very stupid. The police horses came out. People were suspended. They cleared the space eventually. And it's like, obviously that's going to happen. I'm not saying it's the same thing to go out when the Red Sox win or lose because you're angry or happy than to protest perceived injustices. But my point is, the speech part is completely, absolutely something you can do. And then also, when you start violating the rules of assembly, the police horses came out and it's like, I don't know, was it wrong when they did that back in 2004 at UMass? I don't know. I'm not sure. It was predictable. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah, and I just think the response was good because it was effective. I mean, the encampment, the students, they packed up and left right after that. And you know what? The next day they came back in the morning holding signs, no permanent structures or
Mm.
anything. And then they went home at the end of the day. And I think that that's just how it should be. And if the administration needs to do something to keep them in check, like tell them the rules and that they'll be trespassed from campus and suspended if they break them. I just don't understand why they can't do that at these other schools.
Yeah, I'm not
Seems to be
sure, and I
caving to
have
their
not been
demands so
following
much.
each response as closely as maybe you have, Lewis, but I really do appreciate you calling in about it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Lewis from Florida, there he goes. That will do it for calls today. But I'll take calls again. Don't worry. Next week is as good a time as any. So we'll take a very quick break and be back right after this. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first 2 books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.